color. Sunshine. Come on, baby, now. Come on now. Already home. Just try to chase away. A few years ago, my good friend Al moved up to the North Woods from Minneapolis, and so my guitar playing buddy and good friend was gone, moved 250 miles away. And so the thought came to us somehow, some way, when we were all together. I think me and Doug and McCarthy and Al were working on the house, or we were doing something. And we said, hey, why don't we get together, go up north and play music in the woods with Al and Jim at the time. And so we decided to take a weekend and do that. And that was, for some reason, it got called Baystock. And that was Baystock 1, 1980. So it's just a simple thing about let's just go up in the woods and play music.
That's close. No, well, the main thing is that I remember is that we were all sitting around talking, and I got electricity in 1980. And then it was like, well, hey, so let's plug in and play really loud in the woods, and we'll have a party.
That's right.
And it'll be called Baystock, and it was on the 4th of July of 1980.
Yeah. Well, in 1983, Maura and I were pregnant with our first child, Patrick, and his due date was the 21st or the 14th or something of July. And so in 1983, we decided that we couldn't have it. If I was going to be part of it, I couldn't be there on July 4th of 1983. So I guess you and I talked about it, and we decided to move it to Labor Day. And it turned out to be a really good decision, because 4th of July was a fine time, but up here in the Northland, it's a lot buggier, and the weather's maybe a little bit even more unpredictable.
Bugs
Bugs.
was a great idea.
Yeah. And we kept having babies, but they were still in July, so, babies didn't affect that situation anymore.
Well, it's good that you planned it that way.
Well, some things you can do.
I'm pretty sure 90 was the last year at my house, and it was a combination of factors. But for one thing, there was too many people to fit in the space that I had. That was one reason. And a neighbor decided that it wasn't a good idea to have it that close to his house. So we, our friend Dick Draheim, who just passed away this last spring, he said, well, he had a farm about 4 miles from here. He said, well, we can have it in my field. So we basically got materials to build another stage in his field. And he had electricity, which was a plus. And it was a lot more room. So we were camping all over this farm field. That was for 2 years. In the meantime, we'd been looking for property to have it on. And so we looked at all the realtors and for sale signs around here. We had a few things we had to have. We had to have some open space. We wanted to have woods. We wanted to be far away from neighbors because we'd already had a neighbor problem. So as we were looking, I went to a real estate lady, had this property listed, was at 80, completely surrounded by county forest. So it was in the early spring. Dick Draheim and Donnie Hyde and I cross-country skied out here. there was still enough snow to cross country ski, and we ended up coming along that ridge and came up to the top side of the bowl to the I guess it would be the right side of the stage, depending on what you're looking at, and saw this bowl, and there was almost no trees, about what it is now, sand bowl, and that actually was melted off, so you could see that. And we're just like, okay, this is it. And the 80 was for sale for 99. Let's see, what was it? $9,000. So we didn't have. No one had any money, so it's like, well, we can't afford $9,000. So I talked to the realtor and said, do you think we can buy half? And she talked to the guy who owned it, some dentist from Illinois or something, and said, sure, I'll sell half. So that was 4,500. So then we're getting together with me and Jim and whoever, and a lot of it was me and Jim actually. But it's like, well, how are we going to do this? Going back and forth about how to do it, and all of a sudden, Dwayne goes, I'll mortgage my motorcycle. He had a chopper, his prized possession.
Seriously, the first Baystock we had here, we didn't even. I didn't close on the land until October, so it was after Baystock. So we had to take it for a test ride to see if it would work.
Just like every time at Baystock, somebody steps up and says, "I'll take care of it," and then this whole thing, it's unbelievable.
Talk to me a little bit about how the background business runs, business being the security, the infrastructure. Tell me a little bit about how that gets organized.
Well, it's usually Al and I and maybe Jim and Mark there come up with a plan that what we're going to do next year is what we're going to do, and come up with a plan, and from there we figure out what kind of materials we're going to need, who's going to be here, which is all voluntary, of course, and it's usually the same people all the time. But Al usually takes care of all the music as far as getting the bands lined up.
Okay.
Lana takes care of the t-shirts and the merchandise. Jim usually takes care of emceeing and stage setup. Mark and I and Al and a few other people do the usually the construction and destruction and maintenance and schlepping the generators back and forth and getting the gasoline and the kerosene for the tiki torches and building new benches and things that kind of just basically hold it together. Yeah.
Now, the first stage down here, at least when I came in, which is 2012, you had a tarp for a roof. How did you determine where to put the stage and how to run the tarp? And
We took the stage apart from Dick's house,
Yeah.
and basically moved it here.
Yeah,
We
but
had all these pieces out of an old barn.
and we took the stage from your house and moved it to Dick's.
Some of it, yep. We got the main beams came from a barn that a friend of mine, Don Pavel, had on his property. The main supports. The drum riser actually came from the old stage, which was built partially out of Jim's old house.
My garage, yeah.
So I mean, we did a lot of salvaging, which we still do. But so anyway, we built the stage, put it up, and we actually had it pointed in the wrong direction. We were too far pointing up that steep part of the hill, and it was not symmetrical with the bowl. So we took the whole thing apart.
We built it twice because the first year it was pointed in that direction. So we tore it apart, rotated it about 20, 25 degrees. So it was pointing up this way. Hey, we were in our 30s. We could do shit like that.
And now it's in the right direction.
Yes.
For many, many years, we just put up the big blue tarp, which worked fairly well until a good gust of wind would come through, and a few pieces of equipment got a little rain damage and stuff like that.
I would say the tarp has failed us 12 times in those 28 years. Because you get a downpour, a deluge, and you can't keep it from pooling. it rips out the grommets, or it's windy and Doug was airborne here, hanging onto a corner. He actually, his feet left the ground.
And yes, there was a one time we had a pretty good wind go through, and that just everything just decided to go up in the air, and Doug was holding on to it. And then after it went up in the air, of course, it came back down, and then the rain started shortly after that.
We've had him break with a pool of water and completely dump the back line.
Douche the, yeah, right.
And when we had rain on the tarp that we used to have over the stage, and just watching it balloon up and then dumping water on all the instruments, all the sound gear. We had one year, was actually I think my second year that happened before Baystock even started, and we were renting equipment at the time, and all of our monitors got drenched in water, and Jim and I had to sit there and use hair dryers to dry out the amplifiers built into each of the monitors, and that's the way we spent our Thursday.
And did it work?
Yeah, we got one by one. We got each monitor going again.
So how do you know when a monitor's hair is fully dry?
When you turn the power on, it actually works.
And Mark would buy a new tarp every 3 days. Baystock would buy it, but he'd bring it from Duluth. Well, the last tarp he took off, of course, there's ripped grommets and all this other stuff on it. He put a piece of tape on it that said, "We need a roof." and that year we built the roof.
3 years ago, we decided to let some 30-year-olds put a roof on this thing for us. So, yeah, it's been great since that's been there.
Al should get huge credit for the design of the roof because it's absolutely beautiful. It fits perfectly with the land and with the environment that we're in. It's very, very cool. Well, I'll tell you, it is a huge stress reliever because always when there is a tarp up, you're always looking over your shoulder for the next big rainstorm that's going to come or the big wind that's going to come and blow everything away, and everything's got to be covered with tarps on the stage. But now it's really, really nice.
Yes, it was a big stress reliever.
You talked about infrastructure. How did you determine, or how did you even make the roads where some of these paths here, and then also strategically placement of the outhouses?
Well, originally, some of the roads were here, some weren't. The first outhouse came from, I think, Donnie Hyde's girlfriend's house. We just put it on a truck and carried it over here. And that was up there, kind of where the porta potties are. And we only had one.
When you had just one outhouse, how did that work? I mean, was it a lot less people?
Didn't
We weren't
work too
very good.
Hmm.
No. So, but the infrastructure just kind of developed with the years.
But you gotta walk a long ways to visit. But that keeps me going at night.
Just is all about the music, and everything else just sort of happened around it. And when things were needed, things got taken care of.
So Tony, they said some pretty nice things about you and how, and about the shower in general. How did that all come about?
Al invited me out here the first time I ever came out here. So I camped actually that year right in front of the old shower building. I saw the setup and I went down there to use it, and sun was shining on a hose, a garden hose that was going from a tank that at the top of the hill, zigzagging back and forth down the hill and to the shower valve. So I went in there and used it, and I pulled the chain, and first the water was just hot, and then it was just cold after that, and it barely came out. And I just said in my head, this is unacceptable. So the next year I came to Baystock. I brought with a 40-gallon LP water heater and a 12-volt pump from a boat and a battery and an LP tank, and I turned it into a kind of a real shower that was built in a slatwood shed that was falling apart. But after that shower building kind of fell down, the original shower building, then we had the had to do something. So we talked to the guys here at Baystock and said, let's buy some materials and we'll build a real shower building. It's been wonderful ever since.
I got involved with the generator thing years ago. My son-in-law played here for the first time. And that's back in the days when they had a generator down in the shack. And somebody had to dump gas in it every so many hours, you know. I think I had a 5-gallon tank on there. Somebody had to be in charge of doing that. It wasn't me. And my son-in-law was playing, and it was the very last song that he was going to play. About 2 seconds before the last song, the lights quit. The generator ran out of fuel. And I said, we got to fix that. You know, there's got to be a better way. So that's when I got a hold of a 55-gallon drum. And I said, we're going to put gas in that. And I bought about 125 feet of fuel line, and we just run it down the hill and right into the generator shed. So that's never going to happen again, you know. I appreciate these musicians so much for what they do. They're playing here for free because they want to be here. I enjoy their music so much, and if there's anything I can do to make it a better experience for them, you know, that's why I make sure the power and everything works. You lose power, there's no music.
Everybody at Baystock knows you as Coffee Don.
Yeah.
Why coffee? Tell me how you got the whole coffee thing going.
So it's just me trying to do something. And I go to Roger Dumas's and hear practices. I know what you guys do. I know how much practice time it takes and all the gear, the chords. Just one chord costs more than all the coffee, what I spend on coffee. It's nothing compared to what the bands do.
How'd you get into selling the shirts and things?
A personal friend of mine, David Jentz, is who introduced me to Baystock, to my first Baystock. And he was a screen printer and worked for a screen printing company and an artist. So Dave said, well, I can make a great one. And he did. He made a musical, it's a black shirt with a musical note in there and in the round piece, fire and people. So Dave started doing the shirts, and I was here with Dave, and I needed something to do, and it was a great way to meet people because I didn't know anybody but him when I first came here. And I'm known, I guess, as the t-shirt lady. I go to Apple Fest and I could have a Baystock shirt on, and they'll, oh, there's the t-shirt lady.
So Rob,
Si, senor.
how did you end up becoming the de facto camp cook?
Well, what happened was I was visiting Baystock back in 2003 and for my first time. And so my friends in the band never got to eat because they were always singing or performing because they're in like every band that's up there. And so I started taking over the responsibility of, you know, bringing them down a little food or something like this here and there. And I soon realized they cannot eat on regular schedules. They have to eat after they're done playing, and they can't eat before they play. So it took me years to figure out, don't make food at dinner time. Don't have stuff available at lunch, but breakfast you can make. They will show up hungry. So I started doing that, and it just morphed and grew every year. It just got bigger and bigger and bigger. The first year I did ribs, I brought 3 racks of ribs for the band members. But it takes 6 or 7 hours to make them. And so the whole time I'm making them, they smell really good for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm at Al's camp, and everybody starts coming around and, what are you doing there? Well, what's going on?
Yeah. Nose
Well, can I have some when they're done? And so the first year I couldn't give them to everybody because I had to save some for the band, and everybody literally got mad at me. So next year I brought 6, and the following year I brought 9 racks, and the following year I brought 12. So that's about where it's maxed out, is about 12 racks of ribs.
Before you became Baystock Andy, the light guy, tell me why Bill thought you would be the right guy.
Because I kind of helped him a couple of times, and he knew that I've done lighting design and things like that way when I was much younger. So he thought, well, I think it was what was it? I got a call from Jim, and Jim goes, "Yeah, Bill's not going to be able to make it, and he volunteered you." I go, "What? Oh no!" So yeah, it ended up. That's what I ended up doing. So yeah, and I really enjoy it. But it is work. And I said, well, you know what? I think we can kind of improve on this. We're an old technology, and I brought in some LED lights the following year, and kept updating it and so on. And every year there's always something new that we put up and we do or improve on. I mean, like the sound and lights. Dave's always improving on the sound. He's always buying new stuff, and this year we did kind of a cool show.
Yeah, it seems to me to be a pretty broad mix of music when you consider going from Sharborough to Hot Pink Hangover. What do you do differently between acts that are very soft and acoustic to those that are just driving beat?
Well, one of the things I'll do is I'll turn off the subwoofers for somebody like Shar that just is doing the guitar. It tends to feed back more into the guitars. When you get the bigger bands, the more rock sound to them, you need that more low end for their kick drums and their bass guitars and the heavier rock sound to them. But if you do it right, you can get a pretty good full sound, whether you got 2 people on stage or you got 20 people on stage.
It just goes as it goes.
It just goes as it goes, and the idea of the musicians just keep coming and playing, and the others come too to listen, but it's just all about the music. That's really what it's always been about, if you ask me.
Being on stage here is fabulous. You are in a very natural environment. You've got the sound of the aspen out there, which, of course, once we start playing, we don't hear that, but it's a very calming effect before you play. And you look out and you see people on these benches as they go up the hillside, and they're all patiently waiting. They want to hear what you've got to give them, and you kind of can't ask for more.
I mean, we've got it dialed in so fine now that it's almost there. It's almost like clockwork.
This is a great event. It's a fun event. Everybody has their little niche, their little job. Everybody respects everybody else. You get a pretty good mix of types of music, so it's a fun event to work.
99.9% of all them people do such a great job of respecting everybody else, enjoying themselves, going out of the way to help other people. And then all is done, I walk around here and I am just totally amazed at how clean it is because they listen. All the garbage is gone. I haven't seen one cigarette, but in the last couple hours I've been walking around. All the campsites so far look great. Yeah. Thank them for being them. Yes. Because without them, this doesn't happen.
Enjoy the positive, respect the positive, be part of the positive.
There's a lot of love, there's a lot of caring, there's a lot of people doing things for other people and listening and understanding.
One of the things that I think about culturally here is that you've invented something, you meaning the collective Baystock, invented something that is common in very few places. And that's that you've got a greeting that you can use both for hello and goodbye. When you say happy Baystock. Happy Baystock. Hey, happy Baystock to you. It's like aloha. It's both hello and goodbye. And that says a lot in about a culture being built.
Happy Baystock, doesn't matter day or night. Happy Baystock, doesn't matter who you are, where you're at. It's always Happy Baystock.
Happy Baystock, brother.
And all you too.
Culture, like everything else, is defined by the individual. So my Baystock culture, and what I have passed on to the individuals who I have brought here, my children, a few of my other friends, is that this is a place where we go and we get a chance to see people and interact and visit and get to know people, listen to some wonderful music, enjoy this beautiful natural area and all the aspects that nature gives us, and to be respectful, just to feel comfortable being who you are and knowing that you're not going to be judged.
Oh, yeah. It's about as much fun as you can have with your clothes on.
I think this is a great event. I think Al and Doug, Jim, and all the guys that formed this to start with deserve a big thanks. I think nobody realizes how much time they put in outside of here to make this happen. All the bookings of the bands, all dealing with trying to get people's schedules and everything. And that's, I think that's a big part that's kind of the unseen part. And the crew in general, the guys that come out here and get everything ready to clean up. That next year we're going to rebuild the sound booth. When the guys that built the roof on the stage, the guys that built the stage, I think those guys are somewhat underappreciated. They're not acknowledged sometimes as well as they should be.
What would you want to tell anybody who's watching this that doesn't know Baystock?
Well, if you've never heard of it, that means that you're not a friend of a friend. So you can't come, and we're not going to tell you where it is.
Right, unless you get invited by a friend of a friend, because that's how it goes.
Only cool people.
It's a private party. We're not going to tell you where it is. You may figure out when it is, but you're never going to know where it is.
There are people who have friends that won't let their friends come because they're not cool.
Yeah, they're not cool.
I've had some people that I know that came up here and we're going, no, you can't come back. You got voted out.
You have to be cool to be here. There's no doubt about that.
I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Just being here makes me smile.
It's an annual family reunion. I mean, you meet new people, and then the next year, you're friends.
And people were doing really nice things with each other. They were sharing food, they were having wine, telling jokes, and overall, everybody seemed to be really, really happy. And I like that.
Yeah.
It's like, yay, everybody's happy to be here.
There's nowhere else I'd want to be on this weekend,
They keep getting better and better and better, but I've heard talk already that we're just going to have to do at least one or two more. It's not quite right. It's not quite right. We just got a little bit more fine tuning to do.
Yeah, best Baystock ever, of course, every year. But like Moon says, there's always just a little room for improvement. We don't know when we're going to get there, so we got to keep trying and trying and trying. It's perfect.
So you've been doing it for 40 years. You ever get tired of this?
No, right now.
Well,
I'm not tired of this. I'm just tired.
yeah.
It's the place to be for me. I know that. It makes me feel good, and of course, a little tired after the whole thing, but yeah.
No, you don't get tired of it, I don't think. I think it's like a wave. It just rolls, and you just get on the wave on Wednesday, and you roll till whenever you leave, and
We're already planning next year.
you already start thinking about next year, and it's
Next year, I'm going to do this different. We're going to do this.
51 weeks away.
So, see you next year.
Run, Sam, run!
All right, happy Baystock, everybody!
All right, now I can smoke pot.
We all knew Tom for a long, long time. Just not as long as we would have liked. He had to go to places all unknown. Left all of our faces here at home. But he left Tom gave me his guitar. Perhaps you got one too. Before he left, he passed them out. He had quite a few. Each time I play it, I sort of hope he's still in here. I think he is. Some notes come out I didn't put